Robin, thank you very much for being with our show tonight.
Thank you for having me.
You have talked a lot about the virtue of change in your books. You travel a lot, you meet with a lot of people. You have hundreds of thousands of people, million readers reading your books. Why are people afraid of change?
I think neurobiologically, we are hardwired to live within a comfort zone. And yet all of our growth, and when we leave that comfort zone, it brings up an emotion called fear. And no one likes to feel fear. But the whole essence of leadership and the whole essence of growing as a human being is not staying in the comfort zone, it's going out to places that frighten us.
Mm-hmm. And at what point in your life you realize that?
Well, I think early on. I used to be very afraid of public speaking, actually.
Mm-hmm. And how did you overcome your fears?
I overcame my fears by doing the very thing I was frightened to do and continuing to practice leaning into my fear until it became normal. Yesterday, I spoke to a lot of people and I felt very comfortable. But many years ago, if I was to stand up in front of 15 people, I'd really be terrified. But the human brain is a brilliant thing, and it has a gift called neuroplasticity. And we all have this gift of neuroplasticity. And so the more we do something that makes us feel uncomfortable, the more it becomes our new normal. One of my favorite brain tattoos is all change is hard at first, messy in the middle, and gorgeous at the end. So we all can grow and overcome our fears.
Spoke to a number of people who are leaders in big businesses. They told me that they have read your book, that you have influenced them. I'm always struggling to understand whether you sense that leadership is a talent that you work on, or is it a virtue that can be taught?
It's an excellent question. I think both. I think some people are just charismatic, natural leaders. I think of Steve Jobs. I think of Elon Musk in many ways, a visionary. And yet there are also people who might not be charismatic visionaries, amazing communicators, have the bravery of some of these people, but by having a good mentor, by practicing, by learning, they become better leaders. So I think some of it's natural and some of it can be practiced.
So is it the business school that is the right way to go with, or is it lifelong learning? What is the secret here?
I don't know if there's any secrets, but I think just rolling up your sleeves and doing the right things makes a profound difference in people. So yes, learning from business itself. School is important, of course, but actually learning from being in business is very powerful. And I think that brings up another idea, which is life is often the best teacher. And often, surprisingly, pain and difficulty and adversity is the best teacher. From adversity, we learn how strong we are. We learn wisdom. We learn compassion from difficult times.
Just because you're referring to that, yesterday in your talk you said nothing fails like success. I would like you to explain that to your viewers.
I think when you're most successful, whether it's a business or as a human being, you're most vulnerable. And in Rome, there was an ancient slave, and the slave's job was to whisper in the ear of the general, memento homo, memento homo, memento homo. Remember, you're just a man. And the thing about success is it's a very dangerous sport because people start to think they're gods, not just humans. And that brings up, it's hubris. And people start to fall in love with themselves. Companies start to fall in love with their success. The moment you fall in love with your success and you think the lineup of people will always be there, you take your eye off the ball, you stop innovating, you stop wowing your customers, you stop working hard, you stop getting up at 5 a.m., you stop learning, and that's the beginning of obsolescence or the end.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever find yourself at this spot?
I try very hard, even this morning in my prayers, keep me humble, keep my feet on the ground. You know, this morning I went out to the park across the street and I sat there and I had a conversation with someone that was very simple and grounding, because I think the more we influence people, it's easy to drink your own Kool-Aid and fall in love with yourself. And it's really a dangerous thing. I see it happening to athletes, I see it happening to entrepreneurs, and I see it's happening to successful companies. They think they cannot fail.
You refer to the athlete, for example, and it gives me a great example because we see a lot of athletes who are successful, who break their own records, they win medals. Then what?
Well, that's the difference between a championship and becoming legendary. Very few athletes get the Olympic medal, let's say. Mm-hmm. Very few athletes get the championship. But what makes a legendary athlete, they get to the top of the mountain and they see other mountains. And I think about Kobe Bryant. You know, he won a championship and the next day he's in practice. And what happens to a lot of athletes, they win the championship and then they lose their focus and they get attracted to other shiny toys. And then they want to party and then they want to do this and do that, and they get distractions. And once the distractions overcome, I think of Mike Tyson. You know, when he was at his prime, he only did 3 things. He trained, he slept, and he ate. But then, once he got to the top, he started getting involved in distractions, and we saw what happened to his skill.
Absolutely. But, you know, we live a life full of distractions. So, I mean, I understand that you're saying here there is a virtue of focus. Now, how do you develop that? How do you really make it? How do you focus?
Well, yes, I encourage people to be minimalists. Right? If you look at the great singers, the great artists, they really they were great at one thing. So how do we develop focus? Well, we become masters of the polite no. Confucius said the person who chases 2 rabbits catches neither. So we start getting good at understanding our priorities and then having the discipline to say no to all the invitations, all the attractions. Secondly, I think you can change the world or you can play with your phone. You can't do both. I mean, technology is an amazing servant. We can't say it's not an amazing tool if we exploit it and leverage it. But for a lot of us, we are addicted to distraction. We are addicted to our phones. So,
yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you know, a lot of us complain. I complain. I struggle between my personal life and my professional life. And technology sometimes is a servant, as you said, but sometimes is a prison. So the question here is there like a way that we can, you know, separate those two and that we can, you know, secure our private time?
Absolutely. One simple idea is a family meal, 2 or 3 times a week, where everyone turns off their phone. So simple. Secondly, what I call a 0 device day, and I talk about this in the 5 a.m. club, but 1 day a week called a digital Sabbath, where you don't have any technology. I mean, the human brain and willpower, it needs to refuel. But we're on 24/7, 365. So 1 day a week, just turning off the phone is powerful. And then I'd say another thing is digital hygiene. So maybe in your case, maybe your mornings are for yourself. You turn off technology, you're in your office, you do strategic thinking, you plan for your interviews, but you give yourself 3 hours almost in a cave where you can actually think and strategize and create. So setting clear boundaries.
You know, in the era of social media and multiple screens, I also find it very difficult to concentrate and focus. Some say there's an attention span pandemic in our world, and of course it affects, you know, ourselves, and it affects also our relationships. And do you sense that, you know, there is any treat for that?
It's putting down the phone and talking to people. I mean, you mentioned personal life. With children, we have a short window of opportunity. And once that window closes, it's very hard to open it up. And I've mentored billionaires. I've worked with many of the most successful companies in the world. Some of these men and women get to the top. They have everything in the world, but they're very poor. I have a new book coming out called The Wealth Money Can't Buy. There's a lot of rich people who are very poor of spirit because they were on their phone, they were thinking about business at home, and then they lost that window of opportunity with their children and they don't have a connection with their family. So I think just becoming aware that technology is a great servant. Of course, you know, use the phone when you need to, but setting these boundaries and remembering business is about human relationships. I mean, I see people at business dinners checking their phone. That's, if I may say, that's rude. And I see families sitting around dinner tables in restaurants where the kids are on the phone, the parents are on the phone, and I'm not judging, I'm just reporting.
You know, sometimes parents just need to give their kids a cell phone because they want to hit, you know. It's a reaction.
It's a reaction, but our job as parents, I have two children, our job as parents is to be parents, not to let the digital device raise the kids, and I think in some cases that's what's happening.
Do you see any significant change in the way younger generations deal with the virtues that you write about?
Oh, absolutely.
Like?
Absolutely. Human connection. You know, human connections are so important. If you want to build a great company, you've got to be able to connect with your team at a heart level, at a human level. You want to do business deals, you've got to connect with your clients. You want to have a great family life, it's about a deep connection. I think some of the younger people are so addicted to their devices, they have an inability to connect with other human beings. So that's one of the value shifts that I see. Second one, I think we live in a world because everything comes so quickly, the news, information comes so quickly. We've forgotten the power of the virtue of patience. Any form of mastery requires years of practice. Any great art required patience. The great chess champions, the great Olympic athletes, we're here in Athens. It all requires discipline over a long period of time and patience. I think some of the younger people want everything right now versus taking the time to focus on one thing and being patient about it.
You're talking about all those soft skills that are of extreme importance, and you've written them in your book, like empathy, perseverance, endurance, adaptation, adaptability. When is the human being being taught of all these virtues? Is it the very early stage that you were just mentioning, or is it, you know, skills that you adapt during your adulthood or college years?
I think unfortunately a lot of these skills aren't being taught early on. I wish they were part of the curriculum. I'm a huge fan of Spartan warriors and all the training they went through, and tough training, you know, because I think tough training makes strong people. I think in school, and I'm a very big fan of teachers, but we're not teaching some of these character virtues. And so a lot of us become adults and we don't know how to focus. We don't know the importance of getting up early. I wrote about it in the 5 a.m. club. I mean, the way you start your day dramatically influences the way your day unfolds. We're not being told how to communicate. We're not being taught things like the power of meditation and prayer and visualization and journaling and all of these skills that make us stronger, more creative and productive human beings. So some people find it through books when they're adults, but I don't think it's part of the overall curriculum.
Do you ever miss the 5 a.m. Wake-up time?
I do. If I've been traveling and I wake up and I just feel tired, then I trust my body and I give myself the rest that I need.
Mm-hmm. And where do you get your inspiration from?
Well, you were there yesterday to stand on a stage in front of 3,000 people who have the bravery to look at themselves, to grow to be better leaders, better human beings. They want to be better in their families, better in their communities. That deeply inspires me. Mm-hmm. So my readers inspire me. My parents inspire me. My father is 86, one of the best human beings I know. Same with my mom. They inspire me. And then I'm inspired by people like Nelson Mandela. Mm-hmm. I'm inspired. He was in prison for 27 years and he came out and he forgave. He was in prison for 27 years and rather than being bitter, he somehow found the will to be a great leader. And that's deeply inspirational. We complain about a late flight.
True.
He was on Robben Island for 18 years of his life. He wasn't even allowed out to attend the funeral of his son, who was killed in a car accident. And yet he somehow forgave people. Every photo of Nelson Mandela after he was freed, he's laughing.
Yeah, I never noticed that, but it's good to know. You also read a lot or travel or, I'm talking about inspiration here and, meeting people. Is that, giving you more, incentives to, write and develop your thoughts? Yeah,
I think a leader can't inspire if we're not inspired. And I think the only title that matters is CIO, Chief Inspiration Officer. And so for me, I love traveling because I do get a lot of inspiration from the architecture, conversations. I love art galleries. I'm a big fan of art. I love going to art galleries. Yes, I read at least every day for an hour. I call it the 60-minute student. I believe education is inoculation against disruption, so I'm always reading. When I do my 5 a.m. morning routine, I listen to podcasts, audiobooks, so I'm always putting interesting ideas into my mind, and often contrarian ideas. I think it's important not to listen to the ideas that you like. Yeah. Listen to ideas from people who are sharing information you don't agree with, and I think that kind of thing keeps you very curious.
Why audiobooks and not real books?
I think my learning style is such, I'm an auditory learner. I also, because I can be on a plane, I can be at a grocery store, sure. I can be walking in this part of Athens and listening to an audiobook. It's like mobile learning.
And you don't get distracted?
No, I love audiobooks. Now it's very popular with Audible, but I've been listening to audiobooks for 20 years, and it's been transformational for me. Rather than walking and daydreaming, I'm listening to Steve Jobs' biography. I'm listening to a book on psychology, communication, spirituality.
And finally, could you say a few words about your new book?
Sure. It's called The Wealth Money Can't Buy. It's going to be out worldwide April the 9th. And it's really about this idea that society has said that to be wealthy, you've got to have a big stock portfolio and a lot of money. Yet we've all met people who have money and they're very empty. So I believe there's 8 forms of wealth. And I believe that there are forms of wealth that have nothing to do with financial resources. And that's really what the whole book is about.
Okay, we look forward to reading it. Rόμπιν Σάρμα, thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you. Great to meet you.